How's it going, guys? And welcome to the showdown between Bretonnia, led by the Fey Enchantress, and the Dark Elves, who are going to be led by Marathi. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and take a look at some of these builds. So on the front line, I do have a very heavy core of Foot Squires. And with their pretty good armor-piercing values, as well as their anti-infantry bonus, I definitely think they're the optimal pick against the Dark Elves. Because if you look at the Dark Elf front line, the Blackguard and Ogron here, who are pretty much designed against the Bretonian Cav, have 100 armor. He does also have two groups of Harganeth Executioners, 100 armor there. The Death Hag has 80 armor, and pretty much everything aside from the Witch Elves, the Bleak Swords, and the Dread Spears have pretty good armor values. So having the Foot Squires in the front line is definitely a very safe pick. On the flanks, I do have two groups of the Men-at-Arms with Shield, so two groups here and two groups here. These guys were basically just meant to be a swarming tool. So if my opponent had some Dark Shards in the back line or some, Shades or other high-value missile units, I wanted to just get up and around with the Men-at-Arms and, just kind of muck them up for a while. So two groups here, two groups here. In the back, I do have four groups of the Peasant Arrows with the Pox arrows. Yeah, so fire can be okay against factions that do have regenerating, but against the Dark Elves, I definitely think that the Poison Arrows are going to be the best. You can get some pretty good value against Witch Elves, because Witch Elves are one of those units you see in pretty much every matchup. With the Madness of Cain, firstly, they do really good against lightly armored targets, so Bretonnia tends to bring some squishy infantry. So they're not going to be bad in the frontline fight, but more importantly, Bretonnia has very expensive high-value cav. So Pegasus Knights, Knights of the Realm, Grail Knights, all that kind of stuff. And if the Witch Elves can get their paws on those guys and, drive them mad with the Fury of Cain and taunt them, it can be really bad for Bretonnia. So I definitely like the inclusion of the Witch Elves, but that's one of the big reasons why I also bring the Peasant Arrows, because you can really waste them. I think they have, is it 0? They have 5. Where is their armor? I don't see any armor. I guess they have a armor value of 5. But in the back here, we do have a Grail Reliquae. We do also have the Fey Enchantress, and I definitely think she's still pretty good. Chalice of Potions can do really well against Harganeth Executioners and the Blackguard and Ogron. On top of that, Favor of the Fae, despite its nerf, I think it used to give 56 before Mortal Empires, and now it gives 44. But still, it's really good with the Royal Pegasus Knight. So these guys are already beasts with 42 melee attack and a great anti-large bonus. Very good for shutting down Cold One Knights, Harpies, which actually you do see a lot of Harpies in this matchup from my experience. Because Harpies, again, can get onto Peasant Bowmen, pretty good for kind of rear charging the Bretonian infantry like Men-at-Arms and stuff. But I think the Fey Enchantress is a really solid pick. Granted, you could go with, King Lewin up in the air and, try and battle Malekith or Marathi, but it's still a little bit risky, especially considering Dark Shards and, their other good armor-piercing missiles. So I think the Fey Enchantress is a good pick, and two groups of Royal Pegasus Knights, and he did actually vanguard two groups of Harpies back here, so I'm going to be hunting these guys down pretty aggressively. For the rest of my opponent's army, he does have two groups of Blackguard and Ogrons, who he's probably expecting a lot of heavy Bretonian cav. But I'm really glad I brought the Air Force, because the Air Force can shut down Marathi, it can shut down Malekith, it can deal with any Harpy shenanigans, and basically you just use them as a counterplay tool. So when your opponent comes around with Cold One Knights or any threats in the back line, you can just countercharge them, and you pretty much always get the charge bonus with these guys, which is nice. Two groups of Harganeth Executioners, and these guys are going to massacre my Foot Squires. Even two groups of these Harganeth Executioners, especially with this Death Hag right here, can definitely just put my Foot Squires in a trash can. He does have a Canate Assassin in the back, Marathi up in the air, and Marathi does have most of the spells, not all of them, Soul Stealer, Power of Darkness, Melkoth's, and also Soulblight. So guys, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So I immediately send my Pegasus Knights back here to get these Harpies, so definitely a very rough initial situation for my opponent here. And again, I feel like a lot of Bretonian players might just bring, Knights of the Realm and kind of the ground cav in this matchup, but I really think that the Royal Pegasus Knights are pretty good here. They're fast enough that they can avoid the Dark Shards, who have pretty short range, and they give you some really good kind of tools in the back line. So my Peasant Arrows are going to be kind of teeing off into these Witch Elves, and you can see the Witch Elves are going to be taking some pretty good damage. They're poisoned, and I'm also going to be shooting at his infantry as they advance, so a lot of fire coming out from my troops, and the Foot Squires are now going to be advancing. So the Harpies in the back are definitely getting torn up pretty bad by my two groups of Royal Pegasus Knights, and in the front you can see that the Men-at-Arms are going to collide with these Harganeth Executioners, so a very, very bloody frontline engagement. The Foot Squires will trade pretty well with the Blackguard and Ogron, though I'm pretty sure they would still lose 1-1, but wow, man, that's actually a really good trade for me so far. Right here, though, it's pretty much an absolute massacre. These Foot Squires, I use Earthblood, I use Favor of the Fae to try and, bolster the fight, but having this Chariot just kind of roll through the Death Hag did a ton of damage. So I basically pulled my Men-at-Arms from the flanks, realizing that he didn't have anything in the back line to really pressure, and I was like, okay, I need to pull these guys back and just basically try and defend my archers with the best of my abilities, but look how hard my center line buckled against those Harganeth Executioners. I just got destroyed right there. But thankfully, I was able to kill those Harpies really quick, and you can see my Royal Pegasus Knights here are going to be surrounding Marathi. She's trying to use some evil magic to get out of here, but man, she is definitely in for a rough run. So on her steed, is she actually, yeah, she's actually poisoned right now, so we'll get a look at her speed in just a moment. But the other Royal Pegasus Knights right here are going to be getting a pretty good little surround in the Death Hag, who is a large target. It is somewhat armored, but still, they still have good weapon strength and also that anti-large bonus, so they should do some pretty good work. You can see the Chalice of Potions going down in the front line on top of those Blackguard and Ogron. A little bit of friendly fire, but still not going badly. But the Fey Enchantress is a little bit in some trouble here. You can see that this Canate Assassin, as well as Marathi, who does have anti-large and really good damage values, is going to be kind of a, whacking on the Fey Enchantress right here, but I do pop a regrowth, and now you can see the Knights of Bretonnia are going to come in to rescue their lady, which is always pretty glorious. So Marathi is starting to take some damage. She does have Soul Stealer, so she's getting a little bit of healing with that, but it is going to wear off in just a moment. But aside from that, guys, my entire front line is compromised. The Harkanath Executioners just broke through the front line. I'm having to use Men-at-Arms to fight Blackguard, which is just so rough. I still have some Foot Squires fighting in the front, and I think that was because of the Grail Relic right here, but it looks like that's going to be going down shortly. Bounce Power, very even. I definitely was, got a big value boost in the beginning by killing those Harpies, and now, I did actually kill Marathi right here. So you can see the Fey Enchantress and these noble Knights of Bretonnia were able to kill the leader, the Witch King, or not the Witch, what is it, the Witch Mother? I don't know, what do they call Marathi? Anyways, I guess the Witch Queen, we can call her that. So the Death Hag in the back is now going to get swarmed by all these Royal Pegasus Knights. So basically I was like, okay, I just need to roam around the battlefield, pick off all these high value targets, try and get my peasant arrows kind of scattered so he couldn't kill them easily. And you can see I'm actually getting some decent firing here, shooting into these Blackguard, kind of poking this Canid Assassin, but he's actually pretty good against these guys. He's really quick. He has 43 movement speed. He actually throws, I think he throws or shoots his hand crossbow while he's running. So these peasants are definitely not going to have a good time. But regardless, the Assassin is a single target duelist type unit, so it doesn't have really good splash damage. So it's going to take an eternity to get through those peasants. He definitely wants to be using it against the Fey Enchantress, but I suppose you can't catch that anyways. So the Death Hag right here is surrounded. You can see my Royal Pegasus Knights are able to break it. I do have some peasants right here just shooting point blank into these Harkanath Executioners. I love when they have that really haggard arc where it goes up, straight up, and then just down. But yeah, taking these guys down. And what's also nice about poison, if you guys look at the poison tooltip, it does lower vigor, if I'm not mistaken. Does it? I could have sworn it does. I guess it's just speed, but maybe that was something they changed in Mortal Empires. Didn't poison used to affect vigor? If it did, let me know, guys. I'll definitely check after this game. But the Royal Pegasus Knights up in the air are kind of just regrouping, chasing off this Death Hag, who still is somewhat healthy. But there's still so many threats my opponent has on the battlefield. He has these Harkanath Executioners, 57, and I really have no infantry left. Yeah, none. I have these Peasant Arrows here. I have some on the far side as well. One group of Peasant Arrows here, and aside from that, it's just the Royal Pegasus Knights. But honestly, the Fey Enchantress is going to be really solid. I still have pretty good Winds of Magic, and she also does have the Mist of the Lady. So when she is engaged in melee, she has a Mortis Engine style effect. So you can see the Knights of Bretonnia riding down these Dark Elves right here and just lancing them, which is so glorious. Oh, that guy just got pinballed. He flew against the back of that guy and then off that one. That was pretty great. So a good fight so far. You can see the Mist of the Lady draining, and these Harkanath Executioners are actually getting cut down really aggressively. There's pretty good stats on the Royal Pegasus Knights. They do have, I think, 40 plus weapon strength, and are not bad combatants in sustained melee combat. They're not. I guess they're kind of like Shock Cab, but most Shock Cab don't really have great sustained combat stats. But I don't know. I really like the Royal Pegasus Knights. So unfortunately, the Death Hag did come back. You can see there's a big ball of the Blackguard and Nagaron who do have the Fury of Cain, so they're going to be doing some work. So I tried to land right here to just snipe out this Death Hag real quick, but unfortunately my opponent did a really good job kind of, stacking his Blackguard right on top of it. And I did take some casualties. You can see a couple of groups of my Pegasus Knights do go down here, but I do have some Peasant Arrow Fire. So those peasants are just kind of teeing off on these hags right here, and you can see they're just getting wasted by those peasant arrows. Unfortunately, some of them are hitting the rocks here, so I was like, all right, let's go attack this Canid Assassin, just take out his leadership, and just kind of kite him with the arrows right now. And even though the Blackguard and Nagaron are extremely armored, I mean, this amount of, this volume of arrows is still going to add up. But guys, this is not good. The Witch Elves are just going to tear these peasants up. So you can see the somersaults coming in, karate kicks, and they're going to be sent rampaging, which means they're basically just going to fight until they die here, which is not good. So these guys are definitely offline, but on the other side, it's going a little bit better. You can see I got a nice little charge on the Canid Assassin, but I didn't want to stick around for too long. I kind of wanted to just harass, just stick and move, and I did see this Death Hag come back, so I was like, uh-oh, I don't want any of that, because the Death Hag is one of those things, fear and terror. It can really mess up your infantry and your archers, so I need to take this thing offline. And I'm pretty sure the Royal Pegasus Knights are immune to psychology, are they? Maybe, I'm not sure. I do get a pretty good little rear charge here, and he doesn't have the Blackguard standing right on top of it this time, so I'm able to get in there. It has 114 HP, it's going down really, really quick, and it's actually shattered, which is going to be really solid. So now you guys can see the balance of power is starting to shift in my favor. I'm about 70% in my favor, but again, it's not 100% over. He still has some very healthy Blackguard and Nagaron here, but the Mist of the Lady from the Fey Enchantress. So back in Total War Warhammer 1, it used to be applied at all times, so you could just kind of troll outside of the range of enemy units and just muck them down and drain them, but she actually has to be engaged in melee for it to be procced. So you can see right now when she's fighting those guys, it was draining them, and as soon as she left, it kind of ticked off there. So some of the Men-at-Arms are coming back, and these guys were the true heroes of the match. Just these Men-at-Arms just fighting for their liege right here, doing a pretty good job. I guess for their lady is the more correct term, but man, they're holding up these Blackguard, which is so helpful because it allows me to kind of regroup my troops, get some of my archers back online. And you can see these archers are actually just putting down this Canid Assassin. I do drop a Chalice of Potions here for the Fey Enchantress, but unfortunately my opponent did see it and he was able to move out of the way. But you can see the Blackguard are getting drained, and now they're going to be suffering from army losses. So an incredibly good game. It's quite a bit of fun to play Bretonnia, and since I started doing YouTube and back in the day, I guess what has it been now, like a year and a half, give or take? I always like to play the underdog factions, and I definitely feel like Bretonnia is I mean, Yeah, they're having a little bit of trouble in the new metagame for some of the new world factions, but I feel like that's because a lot of people rely on like, very like cav-centric strategies, and Royal Pegasus Knights, I guess, is still a cav-centric strategy, but going very wide like this is what I mean. I think that's the way to go. You get foot squires, you get a very wide front line, just kind of use these guys to muck things up. And I think people really undervalue the efficiency, the cost efficiency of the peasant bowmen. I mean, they're so useful. Just kind of like taking out witch elves, they can deal with just kiting infantry, and even in battles like that when they have a very armored core, with the poison you can really drag them into the mud, slow them down, and allow your Pegasus Knights and other mobile units to really shine in the match. So, but yeah, I definitely like the build. It's quite a bit of fun. For my opponent's build, Marathi isn't bad. She has anti-large, she has armor piercing. She also, has some pretty good debuffs. I don't know them all off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure she has spiteful conjuration, as well as the lore of death attribute, which gives you like extra winds magic reserves. So she's going to be able to cast quite a bit more than Malekith, if I'm not mistaken. And I think she's a little bit cheaper as well, so it allows you to get some other expensive units. The Canid Assassin was something, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it. I guess against King Lewin, the trophy heads would be pretty good. And if you're using Marathi, and she's going to be compromised by a very powerful lord, you can land her, use the Canid Assassin to defend her. So I kind of see the direction he was going there. The Death Hag is really solid, in most matchups. And against Bretonnia, it's relatively safe as long as you keep it into infantry core. If you get the Death Hag outside and she ends up fighting Knights of the Realm or Pegasus Knights, she's going to have a really bad time. But Harganeth Executioners, they tore my foot squires to shreds. Like, that was a huge massacre. That was really, really just awful for me. But the Blackheart and Ogrond, I don't know if you need two groups here. Maybe just cut one of these guys and get a couple of groups of the Blackheart Corsairs. They would have done well against Foot Squires and the Men-at-Arms and would have applied a lot more pressure on my back line. But yeah, it was definitely fun. So very well played to my opponent, Herp. Look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that Bretonnia showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.